Imagine yourself standing in one of my favorite spots on the planet, Bodega Head on the Northern California coast, and like many visitors, pulling out your smartphone. You might take a photo or two, but you also open up an app, and after a couple of clicks, you hear this audio narration. You are standing on the ancestral territory of the Coast Miwok people, where rock cliffs meet the ocean and the San Andreas Fault runs deep below your feet. This is a prime viewing spot for migrating California gray whales, but there are breathtaking views no matter what the weather or season, and in every direction. This site was almost lost to the public a few decades ago because Pacific Gas and Electric, the local public utility company, planned to build a nuclear power plant just east of here. A grassroots protest effort led by local citizens prevented that tragedy, however, and gave birth to the anti-nuclear movement. Consider this invitation. Take a deep breath of salty air. Give thanks for those who have gone before, and behold the richness of the view in front of you. You might pray with these words from Psalm 93. The seas have lifted up, Lord. The seas have lifted up their pounding waves. Mightier than the thunder of the great waters, mightier than the breakers of the sea, the Lord on high is mighty. This narration comes to you thanks to Sacred Ground, a project I am developing as an outreach of the creation justice movement of the United Methodist Church, in partnership with Otocast, a smartphone app which provides audio tours for projects like outdoor sculpture parks, arts organizations, and historical landmarks. The Sacred Ground Tour launched in August 2023 with 17 locations in Sonoma County, featuring a variety of scenic vistas, parks, and trails. My hope now is to create a sort of template in order to scale it up to include other locales with the help of other United Methodists to provide a form of hospitality to nature-loving tourists, education about local climate justice issues, and an invitation to engage in spiritual reflection and faithful action. I see this as a church without walls, a gift to spiritual people who might not ever enter a church, as well as to people of faith who like to spend time exploring the outdoors. There is lots of information available out there via the internet, the local chambers of commerce, park visitor centers, and so on. So I am focusing on these unique things that are specific to a United Methodist approach to the natural world and a right relationship with it. Land acknowledgement, awareness of the challenges of climate change, and cultivating a love for creation through spiritual practices. I'm trying to keep the information fairly concise so people will spend more time mindfully engaging in the place rather than getting buried in their phones. Otocast is a GPS-activated audio guide which can be downloaded for free for use on Apple or Android devices. Most of Otocast's tours are of outdoor public art installations, such as the Sculpture Trail in Cloverdale, California, which is where I first encountered the app. Several months after that encounter, while visiting the coast, the idea for Sacred Ground came to me, and I went back to look at Otocast again. I found one arts tour in Washington State which included locations which looked like sponsoring businesses, and that got the wheels further turning in my mind. I contacted the developer and president of Otocast, who agreed that the application would work for my project. He's great to work with, and the cost, I believe, is quite reasonable. It's $125 per location for the first year and $60 per year after that to do all the technical stuff I can't do. So I wrote a small grant proposal with my denominational district union, and we got off and running. When you download Ottocast, you automatically have access to dozens of available tours across the country, which you can visit virtually. Using this platform has the added benefit for Sacred Ground of reaching folks who might not otherwise ever find our tour. In addition to the audio narration, accessed by a play button at the bottom of the screen, there are 3 tabs at the top. One which takes you to written information, a second for photos, and a third which takes you to Google Maps for directions. If you don't have a smartphone, there's also a web-based version of Sacred Ground, which includes all the features of the app. This might also be helpful for downloading the material to your phone, so you can access it even in places where there is no cell signal. To further connect with church folks who may be less familiar with smartphone apps, and as a community-building activity, I have organized Sacred Ground field trips, which are monthly in-person group visits to the various locations. Participants carpool and bring a sack lunch, listen to the app narration, reflect on a Bible verse, and engage in a spiritual exercise. Some people take a little walk after we dismiss. I've found this to be a great way to build enthusiasm for the project and to connect folks from different churches to one another. These are some of the Sonoma County sites and the stories they tell. I've already mentioned Bodega Head and its significance in the grassroots anti-nuclear movement. There are various locations along the Sonoma coast where we focus on marine life protection. We visit the redwoods and talk about logging and protection of old-growth forests. Some of the parks with oak habitats impacted by wildfires in recent years are included. We visit Sonoma Creek Falls and other features of our local watersheds and reflect upon the complicated issues of water storage and drought, the impact on fish and other animal populations, and encouraging water conservation. We take in a view of the vineyards and consider matters of equitable pay and housing for agricultural and service workers. And indigenous stories are woven into many of the locations. My focus now is on expansion, and to do that, I am looking for sponsors whose missions are aligned with the cause. I believe it is possible that Sacred Ground can continue and expand without the outlay of additional church money if we can develop relationships with organizations such as land trusts, art galleries, and organic farms, especially organizations that have a website to share their mission or a unique place worth a visit from tourists and local folks alike. In Sacred Ground's first 2 months, the material has been accessed over 1,800 times, so I believe this project will prove to be an advertising bargain. As you consider bringing Sacred Ground to your area, consider these criteria. Choose sites which are relatively easy to access in terms of driving, parking, and walking distance. You might even think about restrooms. Choose sites which are free or low cost for entry, open to the public, and where visitors are actually desired. Each site also needs to have a compelling story worth telling. Here are questions that are guiding my screening of suggestions. Where do you take out-of-town family members to see the sites? What are the popular tourist destinations and better times to see them? Where are your best-kept secret places to get away from crowds and enjoy nature? And what are the stories behind these places? This effort will be rewarding and effective if taken on by a team. Recruit passionate team players who can provide photographs, research, and written descriptions of locations, contacts and introductions to potential sponsors, tribal connections. Help with getting the word out by distributing flyers at local hotels, chambers of commerce, and other places frequented by tourists and outdoor enthusiasts. There's something for introverts and something for extroverts alike. I hope you'll download the Otocast app, check out the Sacred Ground Tour, explore the wild places near you, dream a little bit, and contact me if you have ideas or questions. Thank you for your attention and for your prayers.